Hi everyone, my name is Lucia. Growing up in America, one of the most common commercials you would find on TV is Got Milk. This commercial encourages the consumption of milk to everyday Americans. However, watching these, I always thought it was kind of dumb since more than half the population is lactose intolerant. So I want to look more into this issue and how this relates to society. So to begin, what causes lactose intolerance? Lactose is a sugar found in all milk products, whether that is cheese, milk, yogurt, etc. Lactase, on the other hand, is found in your body and it's an enzyme that helps break down the milk sugar lactose. So as a result, if someone is lactose intolerant, now that means that that person has a lactase deficiency or they don't have enough lactase in their body to help break down milk. So growing up, something that I always noticed is that certain ethnicities have higher rates of lactose intolerance. For example, I know many members of my family are lactose intolerant and we're Chinese. So as seen in the map, many countries in the Northern Hemisphere are lactose tolerant. On the other hand, many countries in the Southern Hemisphere are lactose intolerant, such as many countries in Asia, in Africa, in South America, etc. So as many of you know, milk has many benefits. So the nutrients that we're going to be focusing on today is primarily calcium and vitamin D. These two nutrients are responsible for bone health and also height. So this leads us to the question of, is there a relationship between milk and lactose intolerance? And then additionally, we want to figure out if that correlates with human height, which as we mentioned, is related to calcium. So is there a relationship between these three variables at the international level? As for contribution, the model can hopefully give us an idea of nutrition in different countries and contribute to the economics and marketing for many of these countries as seen with the Got Milk commercial. So next, going into design and methodology. So ultimately what we want to figure out is the relationship between lactose intolerance, milk consumption, and height. So as a result, the first variable we looked into was lactose intolerance, which we found in 84 different countries. And additionally, we looked into the milk consumption and height of these countries. Additionally, at the end, we also looked into another source of calcium, which is almond consumption, to see if there's any other correlation to height. So using these variables, we conducted a series of investigations comparing these three factors. At the end, we identified the relationships of these factors using regression lines, correlation coefficients, and probability values. So next, going into the results of our investigation. So for the first comparison, we looked into lactose intolerance and milk consumption. And clearly from the graph, as the percentage of people in a country who are lactose intolerant increased, the consumption of milk also decreased. So in this case, we also put lactose intolerance in the x-axis and milk consumption in the y-axis. Although it could be the other case in like a history evolution context, we decided to focus on this situation given the present context. So knowing that the correlation coefficient R is also quite strong, being between negative 0.5 and negative 1. Additionally, the probability value is less than 1%, meaning the data is extremely likely to occur. Now looking into milk consumption average height, we found that the more milk a country consumed, the taller the average height was in that country. And similarly, the relationship is extremely strong as R is around 0.7. So we had similar results for both genders, including male and female. So as you can see, both have a strong positive relationship. So next we decided to look more into lactose intolerance and average height. And because we want to see if there were like any other factors involved in height, not just dairy consumption. So although the relationship shows that the more lactose intolerant a country is, the shorter the average height was, the relationship clearly isn't as strong as the milk consumption height. So this definitely shows that there were other factors involved with height. So speaking of other factors, one of the factors we looked into was almond consumption. So almonds are also a great source of calcium. So we want to compare that with height. As seen, there is a relationship between almonds and average height. So the more almonds a country ate, the taller the average height was in that country. Although the relationship isn't as strong at 0.5, this makes sense since we know that milk consumption is already a factor. So finally going into the results of our findings. So there is definitely a relationship between the three factors that we were looking into, which was lactose intolerance, milk consumption, and height. So as seen from our first result, there is a strong correlation between lactose intolerance and milk, and there's also a strong correlation between milk consumption and height. On the other hand, when we looked into lactose intolerance and height, we noticed that the correlation wasn't as strong, meaning that there is room for other factors involved, not just milk. Speaking of other factors, we found that there was a slight correlation between almond consumption and height. So going into discussion, as noted, correlation between the variables does not necessarily mean causation. For example, does the amount of milk a country consumes relate to how advanced their economy is? Does the height of the country also relate to its history and genetics? As for milk alternatives, do they happen to be more expensive maybe? All in all, however, calcium does seem to have a major effect on height, as seen with both a comparison with the milk and almonds. So for populations with more lactose intolerance, we conclude that it is important to get other sources of calcium. Additionally, lowering the price of lactose-free milks could also increase the average height of lactose intolerant countries. Ultimately, we hope that this investigation provides useful implications of nutrition in different countries and the economics and marketing for many countries, as seen with the Got Milk commercial. So in the future, we hope that we could potentially compare more in detail how plant-based milks compare to regular cow milk. Additionally, other foods rich in calcium and how well they compare to dairy, and ultimately just exploring other ideas in the field of nutrition. So rather than got milk, maybe it's got almond milk next. Thank you.